This is a community-supported legal education channel. Find out how you can support our mission at the links in the description below. So Guinness has reinstated Billy Mitchell's Donkey Kong World Records, despite Twin Galaxies maintaining their position. Let's take a look at what's going on here. You might remember, we did a video about this last year, I think, where Twin Galaxies made this decision. I guess it was April, I guess it was more than a year ago, but they made this decision to revoke Billy Mitchell's records based on evidence that was submitted by others that they claim shows that he must have performed his world record runs on an emulator instead of on an original Donkey Kong arcade machine. So Twin Galaxies looked at this evidence, conducted whatever investigation they did, and then they issued this retraction. They removed him from the logs or the rolls of record holders and issued this retraction. They also notified Guinness World Records. Guinness World Records then also retracted his record, and then Guinness World Records issued a statement.
Billy Mitchell has made various appearances in the Guinness World Records books since the 1980s, but in 2018 some questions were raised about the technical aspects of his gameplay, and we therefore took the decision to disqualify his records. Mitchell then appealed that decision, and we subsequently reopened his case and re-examined the evidence. This involved reviewing both the existing evidence and newly sourced eyewitness testimony, plus some new expert gameplay analyses and hardware verification. In the end, we found that there just wasn't sufficient evidence to support the disqualification across the board. In cases such as this, where there is debate, we would typically defer to the original contemporaneous adjudication, and this is the case here. So the result is that the records management team has decided to reverse the decisions made and reinstate all of Mr. Mitchell's records for Pac-Man and Donkey Kong.
Billy Mitchell, Video Game Player of the Century.
And then Billy Mitchell has a bit of an announcement there that I'm not going to go over. So I don't know all the details. They don't seem to provide very many details, but Guinness seems to have been dissatisfied with the evidence that was provided to them over the past, I guess, 2 years, and has decided that the evidence isn't sufficient to overturn the original finding of a world record and reinstated his record. So now we have these two competing records organizations. Obviously, Guinness wasn't there, I don't think. I think Guinness implemented its record based on Twin Galaxies' original finding of a world record. And now you've got these kind of dueling scores. Is Twin Galaxies right and Billy Mitchell cheated, or is Billy Mitchell right and he's been the world record holder this whole time? It's a really interesting case, and I have absolutely no idea who's right and who's wrong. So I'll leave the technical details of whether he's the winning party or not. But what we have had here is we've gotten a hold of the amended complaint that he has filed against Twin Galaxies. This is relatively short. And then we also have their motion to dismiss under, I guess it's California's anti-SLAPP law. Remember, SLAPPs are strategic lawsuits against public participation. So Twin Galaxies is going to say that they've got a First Amendment right to do their scoring and record keeping however they want, and that Billy Mitchell can do his own scoring and record keeping. Billy Mitchell is saying, well, this isn't a matter of doing things the way you want. This is a matter of you making false statements to the public. So let's take a look at what he has to say. We'll skim through this. William Billy Mitchell is an individual residing in Florida, recognized worldwide for his records in a number of video games, including Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, and others. Mitchell rose to national prominence in the 1980s when Life magazine included him in a photo spread of game champions. During the golden age of arcade video gaming in the 1980s, Mitchell became the nascent sport's most recognizable figure. After a hiatus, Mitchell returned to gaming in the late 1990s. On July 3rd, 1999, Mitchell achieved the first perfect score of 3,333,360 points on an original Pac-Man machine. As a result, Pac-Man's manufacturer, Namco, brought Mitchell to Japan for the Tokyo Game Show and named him the video game player of the century. In the 2000s, Mitchell achieved a record-breaking 1 million plus score on Donkey Kong, including performances of 1,047,200, the King of Kong tape, and 1,050,200, the Mortgage Broker's score. On June 21, 2006, based on these and other scores, MTV selected Mitchell as one of the 10 most influential video gamers of all time. In 2006, David Ramsey, writing for the Oxford American, described Mitchell as probably the greatest arcade video game player of all time. Mitchell has appeared in several documentaries: Chasing Ghosts Beyond the Arcade, The King of Arcades, Man vs. Snake, and The King of Kong. In addition to his video game activity, he is the owner of Ricky's Hot Sauce. He painstakingly built the company into a highly successful business, in part by trading on his fame as a video game record holder. Good for him. Defendant Twin Galaxies is a Florida business entity. It is an organization and social media platform that facilitates interaction, achievement, recognition, and competition among those involved in the culture and activity of video games. The predecessor of Twin Galaxies Incorporated, was founded in 1981 by Walter Day. Day is widely considered the godfather of video game scorekeeping and is recognized as the inspiration for Mr. Litwack, the beloved arcade owner in Disney's Wreck-It Ralph animated film about video gaming. In the early 1980s, Day began recording high scores that he found on games and arcades that he visited, and that same year opened his own arcade in Ottumwa, Iowa, naming it Twin Galaxies. In 1982, Day's database of records was released publicly as the Twin Galaxies National Scoreboard. Twin Galaxies subsequently became known as the official video game scoreboard, arranging contests between top players and attracting international media attention for publicizing video game stars. In the early 1980s, Twin Galaxies' status under Day's stewardship as the official scorekeeper was further enhanced by support from major video game publications, which included publishing full-page high-score charts taken from Twin Galaxies' data. In 1983, based on his reputation, Day became the official supplier of verified video game scores to Guinness World Records, the first time that Guinness World Records had ever recognized video games as a valid category. Beginning in 1984, the US edition of Guinness World Records included video game scores certified by Twin Galaxies, with Day functioning as an assistant editor for the Guinness book in charge of video game scores. In 1998, Twin Galaxies' official video game book and Pinball Book of World Records was published, a 984-page book containing scores compiled since 1981. In 2008, Day's longtime work as a video game adjudicator and esports pioneer inspired the creation of the Guinness World Records Gamers Edition. In 2012, Day stepped down from Twin Galaxies and subsequently sold it to Jace Hall in 2014, who announced himself as the new owner. The defamatory statements. Prior to 2018, Twin Galaxies had recognized Mitchell as the holder of several records on classic games. Under the new ownership of Jace Hall, however, and an effort to generate publicity for Twin Galaxies, that abruptly changed. On April 12, 2018, Twin Galaxies made a defamatory statement concerning Billy Mitchell's records and legacy, claiming that he cheated to achieve his Donkey Kong scores by not using original, unmodified hardware. Twin Galaxies' statement of that date claimed, in relevant part, and with emphasis in the original, quote, Twin Galaxies administrative staff has unanimously decided to remove all of Billy Mitchell's scores as well as ban him from participating in our competitive leaderboards. Mitchell's taped Donkey Kong score performances, the King of Kong tape and the Mortgage Broker's score, that were historically used by Twin Galaxies to substantiate those scores and place them in the database, were not produced by the direct feed output of an original unmodified Donkey Kong arcade PCB. So now, is that free speech or is that a statement of fact? That sounds like a verifiable statement of fact. They are literally saying that they know that the database that the scores in the database were not produced by the output of an unmodified arcade game. From a Twin Galaxies viewpoint, the only important thing to know is whether or not the score performances are from an unmodified arcade game, as per the competitive rules. We now believe that they are not from an original unmodified arcade PCB, and so our investigation of the tape content ends with that conclusion and assertion. With this ruling, Twin Galaxies can no longer recognize Billy Mitchell as the first million-point Donkey Kong record holder. The statement is libelous on its face. It asserts that Mitchell did not achieve his record scores legitimately through the competitive rules applicable to all players. Instead, it asserts that Mitchell achieved his record scores only by impermissibly and secretly shortcutting those rules. That is, Mitchell achieved the scores by cheating, as Webster's dictionary defines cheating, to violate rules dishonestly. The implication that Mitchell's scores were dishonestly achieved is supported by the fact that Twin Galaxies imposed heavy sanctions on Mitchell, not only stripping him of his Donkey Kong score records, but also in other arcade games, such as Pac-Man, and banning him from ever submitting scores in the future to Twin Galaxies. Such a punishment, according to Twin Galaxies' own rulebook, is warranted, among other things, for deliberate cheating or misrepresentation of any kind. That the statement expressly accused Mitchell of cheating is further evidenced by the news commentary that followed. Variety, for instance, pulled no punches in describing Twin Galaxies' decisions as follows. Famed high-score gamer Billy Mitchell, best known for his role in the King of Kong documentary, was officially stripped of his Donkey Kong and video game high scores and banned from submitting scores to the world's largest tracker of video game world records following a decision that he cheated, Twin Galaxies announced today. In short, the statement accused a professional video game player of not achieving his records through fair means, removing his undisputed records from other games from the scoreboard and banning him for life. But in fact, the April 12, 2018 statement was made with knowledge of its falsity or with reckless disregard for its truth. Those are defamation malice requirements. The most cursory, unbiased investigation would have revealed beyond doubt that the record-breaking Donkey Kong scores were not played on emulation software in private places, but were actually played on certified arcade boards in front of hundreds of people. To date, more than 25 of these witnesses have signed sworn affidavits testifying to their observation of Mitchell achieving his scores on arcade software. But the investigation was not unbiased, it was preordained. During its investigation into Mitchell's scores, Twin Galaxies, under its new ownership, did not act as an impartial arbiter, but rather as a biased observer intent on generating publicity and internet clicks by accusing Mitchell, the most visible of all video gamers, of cheating. Twin Galaxies performed a deliberately one-sided, biased investigation with the sole goal of convicting Mitchell through its 1. Failing to contact key witnesses, 2. Intentional disregard of evidence in favor of Mitchell, 3. Deliberately burying evidence in favor of Mitchell, 4. Selecting an openly biased third-party investigator, 5. Refusing to provide equal evidentiary access to Mitchell, and 6. Failing to fact-check information, and 7. Failing to retract its defamatory statements. In Twin Galaxies' investigation, new owner Jace Hall advised Mitchell that only scientific evidence would be considered, rejecting all witness testimony out of hand, no matter how credible. Specifically, Hall stated to Mitchell, "I don't care what anybody says," even after Mitchell's retraction demand, which provided dozens of sworn witness statements, and Hall ignored them. I think we covered this. Let me see if I can link to that. In any event, Hall's scientific evidence only, no witnesses, standard applied solely to testimony favoring Mitchell. Hall actively sought out and embraced any possible witness testimony against Mitchell, including that of former Twin Galaxies referee Robert Mruczek. On information and belief, Mitchell alleges that Mruczek retains high levels of animosity towards Mitchell and Walter Day due to Day's having banned him from the Twin Galaxies community for his unruly conduct. Hall's refusal to consider eyewitnesses' testimony was especially egregious when it came to Day, Twin Galaxies' legendary former owner, because Day's testimony strongly favored Mitchell. Day stated in a sworn declaration that he had one phone conversation with Jace Hall. In the phone call, Hall's biased and negative nature towards Mitchell was very concerning. My statements, based on my knowledge expressed in this letter, were disregarded, and he moved forward with no regard for any information that didn't automatically paint Billy as guilty. Meanwhile, he apparently accepted witness testimony from former referees to help legitimize Billy's tape from questionable sources. I find it unexplainable that my testimony as the founder and former owner is disregarded while others, specifically the ones against Billy, are embraced. Thus, Twin Galaxies relied on eyewitness statements from those against Mitchell, but refused to consider eyewitness statements from those who supported Mitchell. In addition, despite his professed reliance on science, Twin Galaxies disregarded hardware certification from the highest engineering authority, the senior engineer at Nintendo. Nintendo's senior engineer, Wayne Shirk, had certified the board used in the mortgage broker's score as original Nintendo arcade hardware. But Twin Galaxies dismissed that fact as irrelevant, with Hall saying that he didn't care about the certification. Further, Hall deliberately buried evidence in favor of Mitchell. Specifically, Hall actively worked to hide the videotapes of Mitchell's Pac-Man record. Hall constantly claimed he did not know who owned the videotape, despite his online community continuously acknowledging the videotape as Mitchell's. On April 11th, 2018, Mitchell texted Hall about his videotape, requesting that the investigation review it. Hall denied the request and proceeded to strip the record anyway. Hall also asked Guinness World Records to follow suit, and based on Hall's recommendation, it complied. Moreover, Hall chose a biased third-party investigator, Chris Gleed, to shepherd the investigation. Even before Twin Galaxies initiated its investigation, Gleed had already expressed approval for removing Mitchell's records, commenting that he wholeheartedly agreed with conclusions against Mitchell and the removal of his records. Not surprisingly, during the investigation, Gleed made no attempt to contact Mitchell or anyone associated with him, while making inflammatory remarks throughout the investigation, including asking Mitchell to fess up to cheating so that Gleed could stop his investigation. So he alleges defamation, false light, and asks for a trial by jury. Meanwhile, Twin Galaxies has responded. We're not going to go over the entire thing, but just that they've responded with a special motion to strike. This is usually under a SLAPP law, and they are saying that Billy Mitchell is simply seeking to chill the expression of free speech. See, I'm not sure about that, but okay. They're saying that the April 12th, 2018 decision was simply their opinion that his scores were not achieved on original unmodified equipment. I'm not sure. That's going to be interesting. Do you think their statement was a statement of fact or a statement of their opinion? And does it matter what they meant? I think it doesn't matter what they meant. I think it matters how they said it, how they published it, and how it was received by an audience. If the audience did not believe that that was simply an opinion and that there was lots of opportunity for a difference of opinion, then I think they're guilty of defamation if it turns out that it is a false statement and therefore defamation. And of course, there also has to be actual damage. I'm pretty sure there's actual damage here, but he has to prove it. So if he doesn't prove it, that's also a failure to prove defamation. Let me know what you think of that. Guinness reinstates his record. Twin Galaxies seems to be doubling down. Now they're saying that this statement that was made 2 years ago and we've all been relying upon was just opinion, and that they issued their opinion to Guinness Book of World Records. I don't agree that taking all those actions was just a statement of opinion, but maybe you do. Go ahead and try and convince us or state your opinion in the comments below. So that's our show. Thank you for joining me. I'm Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney, and this is Lawful Masses, your favorite legal news and education YouTube channel. Thank you very much to all of you who support our channel on a monthly basis. This would not be possible without your support on patreon.com/ljfrench and sponsors.com/law, and YouTube memberships and Twitch subscriptions and Floatplane memberships. Thank you to the following $50 plus supporters in the month of June: Joe Tyson, Wes Delj, Citizen of the Sovereign, John Steele, Gavin Barnard, Eevi, Kyle Mudrak, Spirit Bear, Jan Negrey, Michael Pearce, Daniel Perez, Blackleaf, Benjamin Hitov, Stephen, Ottah, HotGrillsInYourArea, Longreach Jones, Definitely Not Prenda Law, Ugly Grill, Shielo T, Josh Baker, Gregory, Rudolph Bescherer Jr., Kristian, Hellman, Jay Dixon, Ameknight, Oscar the Phrophet, and HotGrillsInYourArea. And thank you to the $5 plus supporters who are scrolling on that LED panel back there and in the crawl of the videos that drop and in the descriptions. I'm Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney. I love you all. I will see you in the videos that drop. Have a great week. Bye.